Hi, I'm Scott Stogner. This is Culturally Responsive Instruction Methods and Behavior Support Methods, AEP 8880, Mod 4. Okay, culturally responsive methods, instruction methods, and behavior support practices. For District 5, where I'm at, and Chapin High School, we do not have anything in our district or any surrounding districts that list either as methods or practices that we have to use. There's nothing in our policy, in our handbooks, or district website, and the people I communicated with in the district office basically stated, so no, we don't have this. So I have pieced together what we do have, and it is ESOL teachers. They help our students who are have limited English to no English language speaking abilities. And we have very many of them. But our teachers and the one we have for our school does an excellent job. They help us with communication and at times with even cultural issues. We had a big influx of South Korean students this year, and we none of them could speak English. One little lady, I have 4 of them, and she could speak very little. So our teacher briefed us on what to expect, and she was absolutely correct. They had no clue what was being said to them, and obviously they couldn't communicate back. So we utilized technology, and with some practice and trial and error, we understood that using what we've been using all year with the COVID issue with Google Meet, it has a translation on device or tab on it. And so they would, during class, and I would create a Google Meet for our class, which is already done through Google Classroom. And any kind of lecture, any kind of presentation, I would give them a Korean interpreted, any document would be interpreted in Korean form. Any presentation, whether it was on Prezi, Google Slides, anything, even paper copies, we had the ability, obviously, to translate. But if it was just, your brief lecture, they'd be watching on their Google Meet, and my voice would be translated into Korean font for them on the screen. So I'm presenting and talking. They can see the presentation, but they can see the translation of what I'm saying in Korean. Was it perfect? No, but it was very close. And that's how we did. And if we had to speak one-on-one with them, they could still use the Meet, or I just used my iPhone and used Translate, and it worked great. Just stand there and talk to them in English, and they look at the phone, and there it is in Korean. And they would speak in Korean, and it pops right back in English. So I got it. It was good. And we, over the course of this semester, they slowly, but very effectively began to learn a little bit more of the English language as we went along. So our ESOL teachers are absolutely invaluable, especially in this instance, which really stands out. We've had a few non-English speaking Spanish students, but with the influx of South Korean students we have, that was with the sheer numbers. I had 4, and I think there were like 12 total. And the reason being is there's a Samsung plant just in the county over, just across the county line. And so they came to work in the plant, their parents, that is. So that's what we have for our district. We don't have any behavior support practices that, are specified for any one group or anything of that nature. Later on in this, we do have, I will say that we did have PBIS, which was part of the resources here. And we did do that for a couple of years and found it to be not very effective. So, but we'll get to that when we get to this point. So, moving forward, 10 culturally responsive methods that I was unaware of before I read through all of these resources. And some of these resources were very difficult to read, I'm going to be honest with you. But as I plowed through them, these 10 caught my eye, and I can relate to, because throughout the course of this semester and in years past, unknowingly, when I've had kids who had, basically limited, I've never really had a student who just couldn't speak any English. I had some who were limited. I've always done some of this just because I'm a teacher and I teach, and I want to make every kid feel important, and every student have that their worth is valuable to everyone. I've had many foreign exchange students, which has been very nice, and they could speak English, but they could also speak Dutch or German or Portuguese or French, and so where they're from. And so I always connected this. If you can get topics and holiday celebrations, family traditions, religious beliefs, family structure, and incorporate those things into your lessons. And I know it's hard if you have math. I get this. All of these things that we're going to discuss here. But that's how you touch the kid's heart. And that's how you make them feel their worth, even though they may not be able to communicate effectively. This semester, I did use music. I did use some South Korean K-pop and some even traditional South Korean music. I was lucky because I teach social studies. But if you can do that to enrich your lesson plans, it really touches that student and makes them feel very important at that moment in class. And it does open the eyes of the other students as well as to a whole nother, of course they know K-pop, but a whole nother form of music. Visual, auditory, multimedia representations to reduce the barriers to print. Referencing that, to me, that's the Google Meet. That's the Translate, and that makes ease of communication just so much better, and it puts the student at ease, to be honest, and they're more comfortable coming up and trying to talk and trying to communicate, even if it's in their native language. And knowing that it can be translated for me. And so communication lines and using that was very effective. One that really caught my eye was reshaping the curriculum to include resources with multiple perspectives. To me, I think that's, kind of a part of, you don't so much reshape your whole curriculum, but you just shape parts of it to include those aspects. Once you get to know the students, use examples and analogies from their own life to make lessons hit home, so to speak. Create lessons that connect to the content and students' culture in their daily lives. This is great. We did this. South Koreans' 4th of July is the independent movement on March 1st. So we had a small celebration, which is equivalent to our July 4th for our students in each of those classes. They also had Memorial Day, just like we do, for the same exact reason, but theirs is June 6th. And again, we acknowledge that. Because we acknowledge our Memorial Day, we acknowledge their Memorial Day. And they were very appreciative. And I have, on a funny note, I have learned to bow, and I know why. And so every time I see them, they're bowing and I'm bowing. And I really get a kick out of that. And it makes me feel like I'm helping them have a little taste of home. Use instructional materials that relate to variety of cultures, not just yours, not just theirs, but open their eyes to others. Um, Encourage them to read and write and speak in their native language. And that's what we tried to do for two reasons. It lets them hold on to who they are and where they're from, but it also helps them to ease into the English language. Learn a few words in the student's native language. I thought I would try to do that, but Lordy, I just couldn't. But Spanish is one thing. Korean, it's a little bit different. But if you're capable, there's no doubt in my mind things of that nature would go very far. Communicating clear and high expectations for everyone, not just your English-speaking students, but all of the students. And they're used to that. And so that also is remnants of what, I'm using them as an example because it's the most recent for me. And that's also remnant of where they're from. Behavior support practices. This is one I came into a little bit of an issue with. As I stated earlier, and here at the bottom, you can see that this is all I could really find that I was unaware of. My school has used PBIS before very extensively. I had for a couple of years. And so according to the directions on this, I was aware of that, so I couldn't use those resources. So I used what I thought was best, and it's only half of them, and that's just what I got. The first one, being proactive, positive classroom behavior support practices are associated with the desired social behaviors and academic outcomes. When you use these methods, it's stated, and you can help shape the behavior of your students or student if it's just one. And if their behavior is, I don't want to say in control, but is able to be regulated, their academics will be greatly positively affected. Second one, when educators implement core set of PCBS practices by maximizing structure, explicitly teaching positive classroom expectations, actively engaging students in learning, which we should do as we're teachers, effectively responding to student behaviors. Students benefit behaviorally and academically from this, and they do. You set the standard. This is how it's going to be. This is what it's like. This is why it's like this, and this is what we're going to do. Obviously, you're in there to teach, and you should be very actively involved in making sure they're doing what they need to do for their class. But how you respond to certain behaviors from certain students goes very far. And for that, you have to know your students. You've got to know their background, where they're from, not just from another country, but their family background and what's going on. And then that way you can understand, you will have a better grasp of understanding of why they might have some behaviors outburst here and there. 3, for an educator, the social validity of these practices may be established by all stakeholders, educators, students, family members. If you can get the family members involved in stating here's what they expect, here's why what they expect, here's what can happen if you do not do what is expected, and have their input. It would be, I think that would be very neat to have. I've never been associated with that before, and I think that would be something pretty good to do. The implementation of school-wide positive behavior support has been on the rise in public schools as a prevention and intervention approach for decreasing student behavior and supporting all students and staff at the level. To me, I think this is a very good idea, though it does sound a lot like PBIS. Enhancing staff members' cultural knowledge in which they learn about the cultural dimensions, such as expressiveness, interactions between generations, and language. And this is the one that I firmly believe in. Your teacher, know your kids, know what they're about, what made them who they are. And I think from there you can garner why they may act a certain way. And you can help mold those actions into something more positive. Again, this is all I really could find because we've used PBIS, and those other resources were basically about that. And so I couldn't use it, but there we go. Okay. Which students would benefit the most? In my school, the students would benefit the most. This would be, as I stated before, are limited to non-English speaking students. Most of mine are South Korean and Spanish speaking students in our school. They would benefit because of the lack of real interaction with the English speaking students, and their observation of their culture and language would really help to ease this transition for them. And the English speaking students, it would help them to learn about their culture and their ways of doing things, and their ins and outs of day-to-day life, and help to get them to know each other better. And it would help both grow, basically, and it would help the non-English speaking to limited to increase their English language, and it would help those who do speak English to understand the process of what these students are going through, and possibly even help. Know thy impact. That every student, no matter the circumstances, deserves to feel as though they matter. And I firmly believe that, and you should too. Most effective and easiest to implement culturally responsive instruction methods. For me, the most effective would be to create lessons that connect the content to your students' culture and daily lives. That is, for me, I teach social studies, so that's pretty, simple for me to do. And we did that. I've already talked about the holidays that they honor, and how they're similar to ours. And so what we do is what we did. We just honored it, and it was very special for them. And if you can just connect different parts of lessons from time to time to those students' culture, it really, you can see their whole complexion change. And, that's just, you can see them just perk up, and you can see the small smiles turn into bigger ones over time. Behavior support practices. For me, the most effective would be enhancing staff members' cultural knowledge, in which they learn about the cultural dimensions, such as expressiveness, interactions between generations, and language. This is key. For me, this is key. I have taught in some very diverse schools, and the one I'm at now is not extremely diverse at all. But you still have to know the kids. And when you get your teachers online with you, so to speak, to learn about their students, what their life is like, why they are like they are, it helps them to understand why these students may act this way or that way. And it might not be the way you want them to act. And here's why they're not acting like that. And I do believe wholeheartedly that will help create a better relationship between the teachers and those students. But it would also benefit those students and help them academically and behaviorally. All right, there's my references. And again, I apologize about the behavior portion of it, but I'm just going by the directions. So, all righty. Well, thank you very much.